All right, here we go. So, can you tell me what the victims of the Epstein's files say? Can you go through their testimonies and what they say is true? Here we go. Several survivors have told their accounts publicly, under oath at trial, in sworn affidavits, in interviews, and in memoir. What's striking and what gives their accounts weight is how consistently independent victims who don't know each other describe the same pattern. Here's what they've said. The reoccurring pattern. Across testimonies, the mechanics are remarkably similar. A girl, often young and from a vulnerable or unstable background, is approached, frequently by Maxwell, sometimes by other recruited girls, and offered something legitimate, sounding like paid work as a massage therapist. The massage becomes a pretext for sexual abuse. Maxwell is described as normalizing it, sometimes presenting or participating, which made the girls feel it was safe or acceptable. Victims were then often passed to others. This isn't one person's story, it's the through line of many. The Maxwell trial witnesses. 4 women testified, and this is the most legally tested testimony because a jury heard it. The defense cross-examined it, and it produced a conviction. Jane, I'm assuming the quotes there is just because that's the name she goes by in the trial. So Jane testified she was 14 when Maxwell and Epstein recruited her in... Give me a second. my screen cable gave me an issue. Epstein recruited her in 1994 while she was at a Michigan summer camp, and that the abuse continued for years. Kate, again, probably just a name that they used in the court filings, said she was 17 when Maxwell encouraged her to give Epstein sexualized massages. At one point, like you're so close to being at the legal age. Why target a 17-year-old? I don't get it. I don't get that. Like that's 14, that's horrible. Like that one is, you go to jail forever, in my opinion. Anyway, let's continue. Kate says she was 17 when Maxwell encouraged her to give Epstein sexualized massages, at one point directing her to wear a schoolgirl outfit. I mean, like, if they were of a legal age, it would still be weird, but it wouldn't be illegal, right? If she was a year older. But like, that one's horrible. Carolyn testified to another horrible one, right? Testified that she was 14 when the abuse began. Like, abuse, so like, I don't think you would describe normal prostitution as abuse. So when they use the word abuse, it stands to me like, from my understanding, like he would traffic them. So like he would essentially like remove their freedoms and set them up with other people. And so like that is what I understand as the abuse. And so this isn't simply prostitution, because he was convicted of child underage soliciting underage prostitution, but there's significantly more to it than that, because it's described as abuse. The abuse began in 2001, and that Maxwell scheduled the appointments. Carlin's worked on the stand, or wrenching. Ooh. Caroline's words on the stand were wrenching. She said Maxwell fondled her and that for her, her soul is broken and so is my heart. When the defense suggested she was testifying for money, she responded that money would never fix what was done to her. Um, what were Caroline's words on the stand? I mean, I don't even know if I want to know, to tell you the truth, but we will let it figure that out and I'll decide that when we get there. The fourth, Annie Farmer, is significant because she testified under her real name rather than a pseudonym. She said she went to Epstein's New Mexico ranch in 1996 at age 16, believing they'd help her with her academic goals, and that instead Maxwell fondled her and Epstein climbed into bed with her uninvited. She framed it as deliberate, a pattern of them working on confusing my boundaries with the ultimate goal of sexually abusing me. What the court validated. This matters for your what's true question. The jury convicted Maxwell of sex trafficking and specifically found her guilty of trafficking Carolyn between 2001 and 2004 when she was a minor. So Carolyn's account in particular isn't just an allegation, it was accepted by a jury beyond reasonable doubt after cross examination. Maxwell is serving 20 years. Virginia Guthrie, the most the most prominent accuser. She said she was 16 and worked as so before we go further into this, let like what I understand and what I consider to be like horrendous things. Like generally um prostitution like is illegal in the US. From my understanding it's illegal in Canada too. Um but not like highly like kind of like speeding. It's not something that they actively go after unless there's a problem. Um but I like personally what two consenting adults choose to do, I don't I don't really care. Like as long as there is the consent there, even if there's money involved, I don't care. It gets a little weird when it comes to like people working together and someone in a position of power and can fire someone. Um, I don't fundamentally think a relationship there is bad, but it can be bad. And I've seen that one like there was that popular case of there was a woman, her boss was hitting on her. Um, she struck him down. Okay, my screen is giving me problems again. She clearly struck him down on phone calls. Obviously, he did not give up, and later on, there was an encounter, a sexual encounter, and then she later went on to kill herself because of it. Um, like, no means no, right? Because I've seen that used really weirdly in the Carter Hart situation, but like, there's cases where that is a problem. Um, and so in the whole boss employee thing, there's some weird stuff that can happen there, even though I don't feel like fundamentally there can't be a true romantic relationship. But the anyway, what I'm getting to is the issue that I see as bad is when there is not consent, when there is um, basically if they're underage, we largely agree they're not able to give consent, and so that's always bad. If they're trafficked, I also see that as them not being able to give consent if you've trafficked them. And so those are the ones against the law that I think you should be going to prison for and not getting out. Um, and so, with that context, let's continue. The most prominent accuser, Virginia Guffey, said that she was 16, so she was underage, and working at a locker room slash spa attendant at the Mar-a-Lago. I mean, like, that doesn't look good. Like, this is just another fact that doesn't look good for Trump. Why did you have a 16-year-old working as a spa attendant at Mar-a-Lago? Like, she should not have been hired. When Maxwell recruited her into Epstein orbit, like, no clear indication that anything happened, right? From my understanding, nothing happened there. But still, like, a 16-year-old as a spa attendant at your private golf club is like, that looks bad. Maxwell recruited her into Epstein's orbit, and that she was sexually abused and trafficked to other powerful men. Her account came through court filings, interviews, and filing her post-humoral memoir, Nobody's Girl. She died, right? Like, something occurring or published after a person's death. Yeah, like, I'm pretty sure she suicided after telling her story. Like, that's wild. Like, you don't lie and then kill yourself. That maybe another one I'll look up. my list is expanding far faster than it's shrinking. Okay. Published in October 2025, and she died by suicide in April 20th, 2025 at 41. She had left explicit instructions that she wanted the book published regardless of what happened to her. So she wrote it knowing, right? In it, she describes the abuse by Epstein and Maxwell and alleges 3 sexual encounters with then Prince Andrew. Whoa. Whoa. And they didn't put the guy in prison. I mean, UK's kind of dropping the ball on that one. The memoir also revealed her own early history. She wrote that she had been sexually abused in childhood by her father and a family friend, which she connected to the vulnerability that made her a target. Oh. Her father has denied this. Okay. An important distinction on Guffey's account: the abuse by Epstein and Maxwell is well collaborated and underpinned settlements and convictions. The specific allegations against Prince Andrew is one he has constantly and categorically denied. It was settled in civil court, no administration of liability, and never proven in a criminal trial, so it sits in a different evidentiary category than, say, Caroline's Journey validated account, which I've asked a question about there, and we'll get into. What survivors are saying now. As a group, they've stayed unified and vocal through the 2026 file releases. Annie Farmer called the congressional vote to release the files victory, a long overdue victory, and said she believes the files contain names not heard before of people who participated in, enabled, and funded the crimes. But survivors have also been sharply critical of how the release was handled. A group of 18 women objected to the release, exposed survivors. I mean, this was a mess. The redactions just gave. They redacted perpetrators' names and released victims' names. Like, it was poorly done. It was very poorly done. And at the level they're doing it, like, you almost feel like it's by design. Like, this should be the FBI doing this, right? You don't make mistakes at this level. When you release victims' names, it's because you're trying to intimidate the victims. And when you redact perpetrators' names, it's because you're trying to protect the perpetrators. So, as much as I think a lot of the released stuff, as I said, like, being in the Epstein files does not make you a criminal. It looks bad for you. Definitely looks bad for you. Does not make you a criminal. He was incentivized to create blackmail material on people. But that was a mess. So, a group of 18 women objected to the release exposed survivors' own names and identifying information, while the men who abused them remained hidden and protected. That tension, wanting transparency about perpetrators while protecting victims, is the core of where survivors stand today. So to answer directly what the victims say is true, Epstein and Maxwell ran a system to recruit, groom, and sexually abuse underage girls and traffic some of them to others. That the abuse was systemic rather than incidental, and that powerful people were in proximity to it. The first two of those are no longer just claims, they were proven in court. The question of which powerful people were complicit versus many merely present is exactly what remains contested and partly unresolved. Given the substance matter here, abuse and suicide of any... Okay, that's... the question of which powerful people were complicit versus merely present is exactly what remains contested and partly unresolved. Like, when they're not given the perpetrator names, you can't know, right? Like, clearly, they handled this so poorly. They handled this whole thing so poorly. Yeah. So, a lot of the crazy stuff that I've been hearing go around, it doesn't sound like any of that. But there was victims. There was definitely abuse. Epstein and Maxwell ran a system to recruit, groom, and sexually abuse underage girls and traffic some of them to others. That is true. We know that to be true. The abuse was systematic rather than incidental, and that powerful people were in proximity to it. Yeah. First two are no longer just claims. So let's see. Carolyn, so this was Ghislaine Maxwell's trial. This has gone through trial. This has gone through cross-examination. And this is what's come out. So let's have a look. Here are Carolyn's actual words from her testimony at Ghislaine Maxwell's 2021 trial, where she testified about abuse that began when she was 14. Describing Maxwell's direct role, she told the courts that the one thing Maxwell was involved in was fondling and touching, and that for that, her soul was broken, and so was her heart. The other widely reported moment came during cross-examination when the defense suggested that she was testifying to get money. She rejected that flatly. No money will not ever fix what that woman has done to me, and added that what Maxwell did was wrong, that she takes vulnerable young girls and traffics them, and that she was terrified her own daughters could be trafficked. For context around those words, Carolyn testified that Maxwell... Okay. So basically the same things that we heard before. Those are clearly the standout moments of the trial.